name is Drifter, and in tonight's video, I'm going to be reading part 4 of the Future Me series on Reddit. I know I've been MIA for a little bit, however, I am back, and I've officially graduated from university early, so that's kind of nice, but yeah. I am so happy and excited to be back, and I will be dedicating a lot of time to this because I really just want to chill for a little bit, and this is such a passion for me. But without further ado, let's start. Future Me, Part 4. Email to clntxxx@gvrn.org. Subject line: Termination Request. March 5th, 2016. Dear XXXX, the XXX amine XX dosage of the quote-unquote green dust stimulant is a volatile, dangerous drug. Through rigorous research and unorthodox human testing procedures, we have determined that the Human Weapon Project is a threat to mankind as we know it. We've observed human test subjects undergo severe physical deformities and mental deterioration, including, but not limited to, seizures, self-harm, adult-born phocomelia, parentheses, the malformation of human arms and legs, cannibalism, and further conditions thus undocumented, parentheses, see section XX, test subject XXX, classified. As the lead scientists on the project, we have decided to put in an official request for the immediate termination of the green dust bioweapon manufacturing process. Signed, Doctors C. Ermine and A. Ermine. I read page after page, photocopies of communications, reports, notes, lab test results. A lot of it was incomprehensible. Vague memories teased the fringes of my mind, but they seemed so flimsy, improbable. I caught myself mumbling under my breath like a madman trying to piece together a life I didn't know I had. "He's in here, boys." A familiar voice sounded from behind me. I turned to find Carly standing in the doorway, dressed in a trim-cut suit, flaming red hair pulled back in a sleek bun. The severe expression on her face aged her features by years, giving her the air of a battle-worn cop. I could find no traces of the naive intern I had come to know at my workplace. "Carly, that's Agent Mavers to you, Dr. Ermine." Her cool voice threatened to cut me to shreds. She lifted a handheld transceiver. "We have the scientist, Gnomes." Before I could say anything else, 6 armed men passed Carly to enter the room, encircling me. They wore heavy-duty military gear with goggles and helmets pulled over balaclavas. I almost laughed out loud, because it was ridiculous to think they would need that much horsepower to detain me. Then I remembered the photographs and the effects of the pill, which had almost entirely worn off at this point. Perhaps there was a reason these men were overly cautious. Based on what I had seen in the file, the chemical known as green dust was highly dangerous and unpredictable. I darted my eyes around the laboratory, trying to find an escape. This manifestation of my flight reflex was enough for 2 of the men to grab me by the scruff of my neck and throw me down on one of the chairs. A 3rd man produced a rope from somewhere, looping it around my legs and my arms. It took him less than a minute to secure me to the chair. "You're not going anywhere, you asshole," Carly said from the doorway. She still hadn't entered the room, and I saw her throw several glances out into the hallway. What was she waiting for? "What is happening?" I asked, my voice feeble and worn. I realized that my body was crashing from exertion as I came down from the effects of the green dust stimulant. All my strength, height, and senses, it was all swinging back the other way. I felt my vision blur and my eardrums clog like I was taking off in an airplane. The muscles in my body ached and spasmed. Breathing was laborious, my lungs struggling to catch even the shallowest of breaths. Jeff, the guy I previously thought of as a neighbor and friend, entered the room, exchanging a look with Carly before turning to look at me with a hatred so heavy I had to look away. The pieces were starting to fall together slowly, but it was still too much to make sense of my past and how it related to the man standing in front of me. "All yours, Gomez." Carly sat smiling. There was something sinister in that smile, a gleam in her eye. It made my skin crawl. "Everybody take out your phones and all other communication devices," Jeff barked. "Turn them off right now. This one is staying off the books, you hear me?" There was a shuffling as everyone in the room obeyed. I didn't like the sound of that off-the-books talk. Not at all. Once the men and Carly were finished disconnecting their devices, Jeff marched over to me, grabbing me by the neck with his right hand. He dug his calloused fingers into my skin as he brought his rage-ridden face down to my eye level. "Listen to me, you little shit." He spat in my face, hissing the words with such severity that my bladder lurched. "I don't care what kind of asset you are. I did not spend the last 5 years of my life stationed in the middle of butt freaking nowhere to watch your sorry ass jerk off into the blankets at night. Tell me what the hell happened in that fire, or I will kill you with my bare hands and call it an accident." My mind raced as fear-induced adrenaline coursed through my weakening limbs. I had every reason to believe Jeff was telling the truth, but I also had no idea what he was talking about. What fire? I decided to buy some time to maybe try and learn something in return. "I think you know what happened," I croaked through his grasp, my Adam's apple sinking deeper into my windpipe. He loosened the grip on my neck, a hint of doubt entering his eyes as he scanned mine for answers. Beads of sweat formed on his brow as an uncomfortable silence swathed the room. The wheezes in my chest were the only audible noise that remained. "So you faked it, all of it." Jeff's voice was low and throaty, his eyes growing wide with anger and disbelief. "The whole thing, you knew all along. You never forgot." I didn't know how long I had left to spin my wheels like this. I didn't know which answer would enrage him more, because I didn't know what he was talking about. It seemed like either death or a crippling onslaught of pain were imminent, or both. I looked past Jeff at the corner of the room. I wondered which version of my life would flash before my eyes as he hurt me for something I couldn't even recall doing. I thought about the photos of the injured, mutilated bodies, the green-eyed, flesh-eating monster. If I was behind that, maybe I deserved this. I think Jeff was screaming something at me at this point, slapping my face, kicking me in the gut, but my body was too exhausted from the effects of the drug to react properly. My consciousness was fleeting, dark corners creeping into my line of vision. Then something brought me back. One of the armed figures stood at the far end of the room near the open windows to the lab. I saw them move hastily across the room while Jeff screamed at me, shaking me in the chair. Their stride was effortless, silent. With the alacrity of a cat, they used an elbow to knock Carly to the ground from behind. What the? Jeff let me go as he and the other men flew into position to counter the rogue. Carly remained on the ground, unmoving. The room exploded in commotion as the armed men shouted commands and at least 2 guns went off. I watched in disbelief as the figure darted across the room with incredible speed and precision, avoiding all tackles, fists, and bullets aimed in their direction. Reality started to fade. I had been clinging on by an inch of my life, but now my body and mind had relented entirely. Somehow I felt this masked person was on my side, that I would be okay. I closed my eyes and sank into a blissful nothing. I awoke to a set of bright, circular orbs dancing in my line of vision. They belonged to a round operating light position just above my head. A strip of reflective metal obscured most of my view. I could only see a tiny bit of the ceiling, but what I could make out was the bare concrete. I tried to jerk my head to the right, but it wouldn't budge an inch. There was something hard fixing me in place from the neck up. I felt tiny vessels pop as I strained my eyes to see to the right. It looked like a cage had been strapped to my head. I tried to move the rest of my body, but it was also tied down to whatever surface I was laying on. I started screaming, using all my physical strength to try and thrash myself out of my living nightmare. Out of all the shit that had happened to me from the moment I received that first email, this took the cake. I had never felt as exposed, as vulnerable as I did, lying strapped to an unknown surface in an unknown room with a heavy device stuck to my head. Calm down, my darling. A soothing voice filled the chamber as a woman appeared in my line of vision. She was bulked out in the same heavy-duty uniform as the armed men who held me captive back at the college campus, but she had removed the headgear. It was the woman from Ashbury Lane, the one with the burns running down the left of her face and neck. Without the headscarf, I could see that her auburn hair was cut short, revealing patches of bald scar tissue on her scalp. Her eyes glowed a luminous green. Alanis, I stammered, guessing but not really knowing if this was the woman who was meant to be my wife. What are you doing? Why am I here? Shh, my love, she said, putting a hand on my arm. It will all make sense after the restoration. The what? I cried out, my voice faltering as my body quivered beneath the tight hold of the restraints. Human memory is a beautiful phenomenon, my dear. You know this better than anyone. There is no need to worry now. This moment right here has been 5 years in the making. You planned it all so perfectly, down to the smallest detail, the precise minutes. It will all make sense as soon as I inject the anti-repressors into the hippocampus and amygdala. Those are both found in your temporal lobe, honey. You used to know things like that, and you will again. Now shh. Metal clinked as the green-eyed woman pulled out a scalpel from somewhere to my left. have something relaxing like koi in a pond. That was Future Me Part 4. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you so much for spending this time with me, listening to me tell this story. I hope that it was able to help you relax, and maybe even sleep if you are. Regardless, thank you so much for being a part of this journey that I've been on. I know I explained a little bit at the beginning about my situation, but as I mentioned, I am back now, and without the stress of university, I am so glad that I am able to share this with you all again. I am fully aware that my views or my subscribers or whatever it will slow down inevitably, but that's not why I do it. I do it because this is an art form that I appreciate so much, and I apparently have a knack for it, or at least a voice, and I'm so happy that I'm able to share that all with you. Regardless, for those of you that have consistently seen my videos or have commented in the time that I've been MIA, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for your continued support, and I hope that you enjoyed this, and I'm so glad to be back. I hope you have an amazing day or night whenever it is you are watching this video. And remember, God loves you, and God bless you.